Welcome to episode 23 of Sports Talk on Our Time. My name is Frank Verdecchia, and I am here with retired Pittsburgh Tribune sports writer, the legendary Jerry DiPaola, who is the grandfather of a couple players from the 3A WPL champion Avonworth Antelopes, who just tore Imani Christian to shreds on Saturday. Jerry, you got to be proud.
When you go to the games and you see the name DePaula on the back of two jerseys, that's pretty neat.
That's
Because
it.
I wasn't good enough to play high school sports, but my grandsons are. Thank
Those,
goodness.
those are the next
Jack and
Blackwood.
Aiden.
Those are the next Blackwood brothers, Jerry. Glenn and Lau. What are they? Glenn and Lau Blackwood. Remember they used to play for the. They were safeties for the Dolphins in the early '80s.
Oh yes. Oh, back
Yeah,
in
it
the
could be.
70s.
Yeah, Killer B defense there. Yeah, that could be. Could be the
Well,
next Blackwoods.
Well, we'll see. But Avonworth, they won the Whitfield Championship for the second year in a row. That's 4 years in a row they've been to Acrisure Stadium, and they won the second one in a row. And they play Friday night at Indiana High School against Penn Cambria in a state semifinal game.
Will you be there?
I'm not sure I want to drive all the way to Indiana on a Friday night. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a terrible drive, Jerry. I've done it to referee basketball.
I know. Well, my daughter went to school at IUPs, so I know the ride real well. But I don't like to drive it at night.
There's a deer just waiting to hit your car there.
Exactly.
I would never go there again. That's I don't like getting out that far.
But anyway, congratulations to the Lopes and epic tailgate party. Rivalry anything Shat has done over the years.
Boy, now you're pushing it, Jerry. I don't know.
We were drinking peach CR shots, Crown Royal shots, and chocolate Crown Royal shots.
Oh, nice.
So, actually, the game was great, but the tailgate was a little bit better, actually.
Well, at least you didn't pass out. You didn't pull one.
No, I didn't. I went home with all my faculties. Yeah,
that's good to hear. Well, something that almost made me want to pass out was watching the Steelers yesterday.
Oh my God, how about that? Huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You start. Tell me. Give me your opinion.
Well, I'm not surprised. They're 6-5, which pretty much matches their talent level, and then you take their quarterback away, and you can't expect them to go on the road and beat a team like the Bears, which isn't a great team. Caleb Williams is a young quarterback. He's not real accurate, but he moves around pretty well. But the Steelers, they just don't have any playmakers anymore. I mean, T.J. Watt made a nice play for the touchdown on the strip sack, but we talked about this earlier. He didn't do anything after that,
no.
And Cam Hayward did not have a good game. The wide receivers, including DK Metcalf, didn't have a good game. Metcalf's their best receiver. He hurt his ankle in that game, and his longest reception, Frank, was 8 yards. For a guy who's supposed to be able to take the top off of defense.
That's the kind of price. Well, that's the kind of price you pay when you sign a receiver whose name's DK. So that's an inside joke between you and I and whoever else is listening. But yeah, I mean he is not. I mean
you're the best, Frank. You're the
best. He's a big guy. He drops a lot of passes. I saw Dulac blamed him for the interception.
Yeah.
And there's so many problems on this team. But the thing is they have weeks where they just tease you and you think, oh man, the Steelers might not be that bad. Look what
they beat the Colts and the Patriots, two of the best teams in the AFC, the top two seeds in the AFC right now.
Exactly. And you play yesterday, 2 sacks given up. Who was it? Darnell Washington got beat twice on those sacks. That last play, that 4th down play, I myself would have tried to roll him out of the pocket a little bit to throw a pass instead of making him throw in it with all those trees there, and you just knew it was bound to get knocked down. And honestly, I don't know who thinks Aaron Rodgers is going to come back and all of a sudden this team's going to just be resurrected, because the last few weeks of him, he has not looked like.
Yeah,
he's 41, 42 years old now.
42 in a couple weeks.
He's going to be 42.
Here we are, Frank, in the 4th year post Ben Roethlisberger, still looking for a quarterback. They drafted Kenny Pickett. That didn't work out.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson didn't work out. Justin Fields didn't work out. Rodgers worked out for about half a season, and he could come back and play well. It's not over. But is he going to want to play next season? That's another thing we have to think about.
I doubt.
Up in this season, and if he doesn't want to come back and play, then they're back where they started, and they got to find another quarterback. It's not Mason Rudolph, I don't think.
I would be very surprised if he came back. And then there's people that were calling for Will Howard. No one has seen Will Howard play it down.
That's crazy.
Will Howard in.
He's never played.
Never yet.
That's a fan. That's a fan thinking. Fan is short for fanatic, right?
That's right. That's what it is. There's a people with Pickett derangement syndrome who still think he got screwed over here. That Pickett pick set them back 5 years, if not more. That was
Yeah,
such an awful pick. And
first
also
round pick.
they could have had Lamar Jackson, and they took Terrell Edmonds. It was set up. It was put on a tee. Ben got injured in 19. Jackson takes over. Ben could have retired. Lamar Jackson's your quarterback right now, and maybe you won a Super Bowl by now. But
Yeah, yeah.
but they didn't. And they took they.
It goes back to what we were talking about beforehand. Uh, Tomlin is a defensive-minded coach, so he takes a
Yeah,
safety. Okay,
yeah.
and the safety didn't work out. He was a bad first-round pick, obviously, and Jackson was picked a few picks later. He was second round, wasn't he? Ended the first round.
Jackson was into the first round, and
Last
not
pick in the first round.
yes,
And
yes,
Edmonds was a couple picks before that. And you're
yeah.
right. And I never thought of that. That's a good point. Boy, they'd love to have Lamar Jackson right now. They wouldn't have
Oh,
these problems at quarterback.
he could have sat his rookie year, learned from the master, and then just walked right into that job
And
in
they wouldn't have
19.
had to draft Pickett. They would have
Mm-mm.
had a good first round pick that year,
Yeah,
who
yep.
right now could be a Pro Bowl player. You know?
Yeah, yes. Pickett.
Mhm.
That was a mistake, and who knows when they're going to get a quarterback. Next year's crop doesn't look as good as it did 3 months ago,
No, it
and
doesn't. It doesn't.
that's an issue. But I just think, I mean, I've been saying this since last year, as long as we've been doing this thing, that the best thing the Steelers could do is lose. And they need, I'm not saying you get a quarterback now, because I haven't seen one play in all the college football I've watched. I have not seen one that says to me, boy, that's a drop dead star there. But they do need to get a playmaker, one of those Ohio State wide receivers. They need to get a wide receiver, some kind of dynamic playmaker to go. You just signed DK Metcalf. He can't do it by himself. He is not Antonio Brown.
Did you see
Antonio Brown
Pickens
was,
last night?
yes, if
Not
Antonio
that.
Brown was on this team, he would be catching the ball over and over again, even with old Rodgers. He'd be beating triple coverage because that's how great he was. DK Metcalf is not that. But like I was just going to mention that George Pickens, he's got over 1,000 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns.
He may be the best receiver in the NFL right now. You know,
Yeah.
and the Steelers got a third round pick for him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, hindsight's what's a 2020, but I mean, he was an
Yeah,
issue here.
I know,
So
I know.
it
They
was,
they couldn't handle him for one
yeah,
thing. He was a loose cannon. He wasn't well liked in the locker room, so they almost had to trade him. And now
yeah,
he's watching his P's and Q's. He has CD Lamb next to him. He has a real quarterback throwing him the ball, which he never had in Pittsburgh.
no,
That's one of the reasons he wanted out. Maybe part of the reason he acted up just to get himself kicked out of town.
yeah,
And so he'd go play for a team with a good quarterback. And now his contract's up after this year, right?
yes, yes.
Then he'll be a very high priced free agent in the off season.
And the
He'll make a boatload of money.
Steelers wouldn't have been able to keep him if you paid Metcalf already all them, over
They'd have
100.
him. They'd have him now, and probably have a better team now. Because I was
Yeah,
one of those guys from the very beginning who said the Steelers don't need a second receiver. Calvin Austin will do fine. The tight ends will do fine. The Washington, the big million-pound
yeah,
tight end, they use him more to block than to catch passes,
yeah.
and doesn't block that well. I
He
don't
doesn't
think.
even block that well. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
and now they need a second wide receiver.
yeah,
I think they need help in the secondary early in the draft. They need help at
yeah,
wide receiver, help at quarterback early in the
yeah,
draft. They have
yes,
a lot of picks, but only one first round pick, right? It's not like
yes.
they have two
That's it.
first round picks.
That's it. And some of those, what are those called? Those what are those picks? Those other picks they get for losing a guy.
Bonus picks or
Bonus picks. Yeah,
compensatory
compensatory
picks.
picks. They're getting higher and higher every week. I mean,
Yeah, they'll be able to draft anybody they want in the fifth round.
yeah, yeah.
But you know what? This off season, forget about the next 6 weeks of this season.
Yeah,
That's going to be difficult. But Omar Khan has a real difficult job in the off season trying to put this team back together.
yeah. That's exactly it. This team's in disarray. I just think TJ Watt. I mean, I would not have signed him. I don't. He's definitely on the downside of his career. He is not who he was,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
they could have gotten more for him. They could have gotten maybe one first round pick.
Maybe they could have. What did
Yeah.
the Cowboys get for Micah Parsons? They got
They got a lot. They got a ton, but Micah Parsons also 25 years old, and
younger than Watt. Yeah,
TJ Watt's 31, and
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the problem is with him. He does not disrupt like he used to. He got the one play, but that was it.
Yeah, he disappeared after that. And the game's coming up, Frank. I was looking at the playoff picture in the AFC. The Steelers are now out of the playoff picture. If the playoffs
Yeah.
were to start today, they wouldn't make them. Because they lose a tiebreaker to the Ravens. They're tied at 6-5. So this game on Saturday, in Pittsburgh against the Bills at Acrisure Stadium is huge because the Bills are right ahead of them. The Bills right now are the last playoff team in the AFC, and they're 7-4. The Bills win that game, go 8-4, and the Steelers go 6-6. Then you're in trouble because you got the Texans and the Chiefs, also at 6-5, and the Chiefs are coming on. I think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs and make noise in the playoffs. You mark my words. We'll be talking Chiefs in January.
Chiefs are still a good football. They still have a great quarterback, and that's the difference. So a great quarterback can take you a long way. If Aaron Rodgers was 31 years old instead of 41 years old, we'd be talking a lot different right now.
It'd be a different conversation. They wouldn't be 6-5.
Yeah, it'd be a real different conversation. But I don't see the Steelers making the playoffs. And
I think you're right. They got to play Buffalo. They got to play the Ravens twice. They got to play the Lions, and plus the Dolphins and the Browns. And out of those 6, I see maybe 2 wins, 2 and 4. So you end up 8-9 then with a losing season.
Yes. And what do you get at 8? And what do you get? Oh, we got the 21st overall pick. Oh man, there's got to be a left
better than 21. 8-9 might get you up into the teens.
Boy, we might get us another left tackle from Baylor or something like that. Just killed it at the combine.
Or another linebacker. But they need help at safety. I think maybe even cornerback too. I'm still not sold on Joey Porter Jr. He's played a little bit better lately.
No, I saw on Facebook somebody argued with me on that because someone was complaining about Joey Porter Jr. And I said he's not his father, and someone had a heart attack and was like, he's still growing and he's still learning how to play. His father was an All-Pro by his 3rd season. What do you want?
Yeah,
he's not a 7th round pick from Duquesne.
He's a good player, a serviceable player, but he's not a shutdown corner.
He's not Ike Taylor.
He's not Ike Taylor, and they drafted him way earlier than they drafted Ike Taylor. Ike Taylor was a 4th round pick.
That's right.
And you can find great players, later in the draft, but so far the Steelers haven't found them lately. And I don't know whose fault that is. Omar Khan, Kevin Colbert. This team is 6-5 for a reason, and the biggest reason I think, if we would pick one event maybe that really caused them to go 6-5 now, maybe out of the playoffs, is drafting Pickett, because you could have drafted a really good player at number 20 who might be helping you right now. And Pickett is a backup in Las Vegas on his 4th team, who's never, and I love Kenny when he fit him, and I got along well. I enjoyed talking to him. He's not a NFL starting quarterback, in my opinion.
Where's Art the second at if the Steelers go 8-9, 7-10? Where's he?
Well, he won't have the excuse anymore that we have winning seasons. We're competitive. 8-9 is not competitive. Okay, 8-9 is less than mediocre, and he's going to have to answer to that. Whether he wants to keep Mike Tomlin around, beyond this season, if the team goes 8-9, that's a good question. Only he can answer that, and he probably doesn't want to fire Tomlin, I'm sure, because I think he signed through the 26th season at least, right?
I think it's the 27th season, but it's not like it's not like the Steelers are Pitt and there's no money there. If you have to absorb and eat a little bit of cash.
But Ben really never did things that way. He doesn't want to pay guys not to work. And Art's the same way.
I get that, but it's just a different era now, though, too. And I mean, I don't know how much longer you can do with it, or you have to make him fire people. Remember, Noel was forced to fire coaches in the '80s at one point. I think he was forced by management to get rid of
it. He did it,
and he did it. And maybe Tomlin. There's just you got to have better. You got to have a better staff. They do most of the coaching. I mean, when there's a timeout called, who's talking to the players? It's usually the assistants that are talking to the players, and it's just not. It's not like the old days where Bradshaw called a timeout and he just walked over and the Emperor and he just waxed a little bit there, and Emperor told him to suck it up and stop being a baby, and then Bradshaw come out and throw a touchdown pass down there.
That was the Emperor. That was a different era, a different era. Special guy. He's Mike Tomlin is no Emperor, no Chuck Noll.
No, he's not. Neither was Bill Cowher. But I mean, great. All three. I mean, Tomlin is a great coach. He's had an excellent caree, but 19 years and what's happened the last so many, he's going to be a big choice.
We'll see how. We have a busy show tonight, Frank. I want to talk about the Pitt basketball team, the teams on the Skids, and then we're going to have a guest on later on, Manny Navarro, from the Athletic, Miami-based college football writer, who's going to tell us about the Pitt Miami game this Saturday at Acrisure Stadium. But first of all, Pitt, Frank, talk a little bit about where you think Pitt basketball is headed after losing of all teams, Quinnipiac last night.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think, I remember the 21-22 season was absolutely awful, and I don't think this team's in that same boat that team was back
No.
then. I mean, losing to Quinnipiac is an issue, but I mean, Beba Cummings didn't play, but Beba Cummings isn't a superstar. You should still be beating Quinnipiac. There's
But he's their
no,
best player, and that's
yeah,
the loss.
and there are a lot of issues there, and that's another. I mean, there's no go-to guy on this team. Corin is right now. Corin is their closest thing to it, and he's a I wouldn't say he's soft, but he's not exactly going to intimidate you very much around the basket. I think
No.
that's Cialepa or Cialupu, whatever his name is from Australia. He had 20. He's thick. He's just he's a guard. He's like a swing guard who's
He
thick.
looks like a linebacker, doesn't he?
Yes, and that makes you very like you don't have this speltness or whatever to make those plays to drive into the basket and stuff. And I think Witherspoon, he needs some time. I mean, he's built a little bit like Bub. He's not Bub. I mean, he comes from the same
Not as
pedigree,
good. He's not as good as Bub. Yeah.
but they miss Jalen Lowe. Jalen Lowe could go to the hoop. Jalen Lowe could beat a guy off the dribble and go to the hoop and do that left-handed scoop shot, that pivot that they don't have that right now. I mean, I thought
Losing Jalen Lowe was a big loss, and now Capel has
yeah,
9 of his 12 scholarship guys. I think that's right. 9 of his
yeah,
12 scholarship guys are brand new. They're a
exactly.
brand new team, putting a different chemistry together, new chemistry together, and so far it hasn't worked out. But you know what? It gets tougher from now on. I mean, they got
Hmm.
High State Friday. Next week is Texas A&M,
Yeah,
and Villanova and Penn State are on the schedule too before the holidays. So it's not going to be easy. Capel has
yeah,
maybe his most difficult. He's had some difficult coaching jobs
yeah,
over his years, but this is his 8th year as head
yeah.
coach of the team. You would expect by the 8th season they would have things figured out.
You would
And
think.
I realize it's the NIL era, it's a immediate transfer era, and things are tougher on coaches. But this is the 8th season,
But
and
that should make his job even easier, though. That the all the things you talked about, like the transfer portal, it helped him to get you to players instead of trying to build,
oh yeah,
a program from garbage and trying to stack more garbage on top of it. He
where
can still go,
he got Cummings,
yeah,
yeah.
Cummings. They don't have a Blake Hinson. Blake Hinson could take a game over.
Hinton
Blake
was a
Hinson,
transfer portal guy too,
and Hinson, he smiled. I loved watching that guy play. I mean, he
Oh
could
yeah, yeah.
6'7". He could have a guy the same size as him an inch away from him, and he could still put a shot up in his eye. Ish
He was
Leggett couldn't do stuff like that.
he was a scorer, and he was a guy you can count on if you needed a basket, late. I never forget the game, the NCAA tournament game in Dayton a couple years ago,
Hmm.
when they were playing Mississippi State. He hit a 3-pointer late in the game. I swear it was like 2 steps from the half court line, right on the logo.
I
And
know.
they don't have anybody like that anymore who
And
has the courage to step up and take a 3-pointer like that in a crucial situation.
and, and Capel just trusted him too. He could have missed 7 threes in a row, and he still would be like, just keep shooting. And he had a good
Yeah.
time while he played too. I mean, still one of the great moves is hopping up on that table at Duke. I'll never forget that. And beating his chest. And I hope he just said, "I am the man." All you nepo children over there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, you know what? You need an edge. You need a guy with an edge, and Avworth actually had it when that Luke O'Neal hit that kid going across the middle.
Oh,
Pitts had it in football over the years. With
yeah,
guys like Darrell Rivas and Mike Ditka. Guys who didn't care,
yeah,
who just go out there and hit somebody, and the rest of the team followed along.
yeah,
And Hinson was that guy for basketball over the years,
yeah,
and the Pirates don't have that anymore. They used to. AJ Burnett was that guy. He would tell a guy to f off as easily as it's punch him.
yeah,
You look him in the eye. So
yeah.
I really think that you need to have a guy like that who's going to maybe go cross the line a little bit or approach the line and
I
get
agree.
everybody fired up. And right now, none of these teams in Pittsburgh seem to have that.
No, and it's there for the taking for the football program.
Oh, for football, yeah, right,
If
yeah.
Yeah, right now you want to try to own the city right now. Beat Miami on Saturday. Maybe back your way into the
Well,
ACC championship.
Narduzzi took a lot of heat for that comment he made about Notre Dame. But the question to him was, and I want to talk about this real quick. The question to him was, is the Notre Dame game a must game?
Hmm.
And I know what he wanted to say, but he didn't say it in the right way. He said, I don't care if we lose by 100. And that rubbed people the wrong way. It didn't sound right. But the Notre Dame game was meaningless
Yeah,
as far as the ACC standings are concerned. And now Pitt's in a position where they beat Miami, and a couple other things happen, they can go to the championship game. But it was
Exactly.
meaningful. The Notre Dame game was meaningful, and it set Pitt up against these other college football playoff teams. It showed everybody that Pitt's a nice team, a nice program, but way
Yeah.
far away from being a playoff
Well,
team.
Jerry, we got Manny on right now, so
All
let
right,
me add
Manny.
him. Yep. Let me get.
There's Manny. Hey, Manny, how are you?
Doing great, Jerry. How about yourself?
Good to see you. Meet Frank
Yeah.
Verdecchia, my good friend. We
How
worked
you doing,
together at
Frank?
Tribune Review for
Nice
years.
to meet you,
He
man.
went on to bigger and better things, and I'm retired. So that's why we had to get you on tonight to talk some college football with the big game because the Hurricanes coming up.
Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys. Obviously, a big game for both of these teams this week, and I'm very interested to see which Miami team shows up because I think they kind of have a personality disorder at times. They look like they should be a top 5, top 10 team in the country one minute, and the next they look like they're not excited to be there. So I'm very interested to see which team shows up on Saturday.
Well, Manny, I'm interested in this ACC race. It's
Hmm.
a long shot, but we could have actually a 6-way tie for first place Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I'm just interested in your feelings on those 6 teams and how you might power rank those teams 1 through 6. Of the 6 teams, forget about the standings and everything else. Who is the best team in the ACC right now?
It's a great question, Jerry. I honestly can't tell you with a straight face. I know because I think at times I feel like it's Pittsburgh. I think they look like the most explosive team that's playing the best. Regardless of what happened against Notre Dame, I think they've been red hot since they made the quarterback change. I think at times you look at Miami and say they're the most talented team in the league because they've got all these future NFL guys on the offensive and defensive line. They should be winning. Carson Beck's kind of got his act together. And then SMU just keeps winning, right? They just, it doesn't matter who you put in front of them. These guys, since they joined the league, always win. So, Virginia's had their moments. It's really difficult for me. I think Georgia Tech has taken a step back. You've seen what the struggles they've had on defense.
Right.
I think they kind of benefited from a favorable schedule, and certainly Duke. I know Manny Diaz coaches defense. They don't play a whole lot of it over there this season in Durham. So I think to me it's either SMU, Pittsburgh, or Miami. I think Virginia is probably the fourth best team, but it's a toss up because I think any one of those 3 teams, SMU, Pittsburgh, or Miami, would be a good ACC champion.
Well, Manny, I was at the Notre Dame game, and I just watched Notre Dame could have beat Pitt 100. If you'd have played 100 times. They just manhandled Pitt. And I saw Miami. They held Love to 33 yards, and it was the only game he did not score a touchdown. And I just feel like Miami could come in here, and like you said, they're just they're a team that just hasn't found itself fully yet because I could see them beating Pitt 42-3 or something like that as
Right.
easily as like you know what do you think about Miami as a whole like that and looking at what they did against Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think, look, first of all, you got to remember that was CJ Carr's first college start, right?
Okay.
And he looks like a totally different guy now at quarterback. Obviously, Love, everybody was talking about at the game. Why are they giving him the ball more? Miami was very excited for that game. They were fully healthy. They had everybody on the roster out there. They were excited about their new defensive coordinator. And Ruben Bain and those guys played their butts off. I mean, they played Notre Dame as tough as anybody has all season, and really I thought we're in control of that game most of the game, and then all of a sudden at the end they kind of take their foot off the gas, and Notre Dame comes back and they're having to kick a game-winning field goal to beat them. But again, it's the inconsistency with Miami, and I think a lot of it just has to do with Mario Cristobal. He coaches like he's coaching in the NFL, and he's got to protect the lead. He doesn't play aggressively. All the fans down here were clamoring, why do they keep running to the A gap? Everybody knows what's coming. They're running the ball up the middle, and teams were stopping them. SMU certainly did. Louisville did. He just kind of coaches in a way that makes you scratch your head because you say, man, they've got all these great offensive linemen. They got these speed guys on the outside, and they're playing so conservatively. I think there's been flashes the last few weeks, right? You've seen more trick plays. You've seen Malachi Tony used in unique ways, but they're just not consistent. And I thought even against Virginia Tech this past weekend, you kind of were dialing it down, not taking shots down the field, not sort of going to their playmakers and saying, okay, we're going to put our foot on their throat. They were comfortable winning by 10 to 17 points, and that's the way it played out.
Maybe he didn't want to show Pat Narduzzi too much in that Virginia Tech game. Maybe he wanted to, play vanilla a little bit. Don't let the dude see too much, and then he'll spring a couple of things on Pitt on Saturday. And I think that's going to be the key. If those guys, those playmakers on the outside, start running into the secondary, and Pitt secondary, has been in and out all year. They're a little bit young. They make a good play, they make two bad ones. I don't know. I just think that Miami is a better team than Pitt, better talent than Pitt, and I guess the odds makers are concurring, right? Isn't Miami about a double-digit favorite in this game, or something close to that?
I think the line according to BetMGM is 6.5, so
Only 6.5.
Yeah, okay. Touchdown favorite. And look, Miami's a much better team at home than they are away. It especially in the cold, we saw with that. We go back to 2017, right? And the number 2 ranked team in the country, and they're going up there and playing a Pitt team that was down, and they still lost that game. So I just think it's a mentality with Mario Cristobal, right? I think his team plays not to lose, and sometimes when you play that way, you get yourself in trouble. It happened against Louisville, certainly happened against SMU. I think the Miami team, I think most Hurricanes fans want to see is that team that shows up and just out talents you, right, and pushes you around. And I think the key for Miami is going to be the pass rush. Obviously, Pittsburgh's had some issues giving up sacks, and Miami's got an elite pass rush with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. Both of those guys are healthy. They're getting David Blay back. He's their starting defensive tackle. He'll be healthy this week and starting in that game. And you'll have the mix of all the young guys, Justin Scott, who's played phenomenally with Blay banged up. And, so to me, it's going to come down to this Pittsburgh game plan around Miami's pass rush, and they do a good job. Because if the Hurricanes can't get to them the same way Louisville sort of did, right? Louisville did a great job sort of suppressing that pass rush. And I think Pittsburgh wins this game because they're at home, they're comfortable, and they're comfortable in their skin. And I think Miami doesn't like playing close games. I think Carson Beck can certainly make some mistakes. Pittsburgh has proven that with all the pick sixes they've gotten. So I think it's going to come down to the pass rush. If Miami's pass rush is effective, they win this game. If they don't, I think Pittsburgh wins.
Manny, what have you thought of Mason Heinchel, how he came out of nowhere?
Phenomenal story. Love to see it, right? 3-star guy who not a lot of people were on, and all of a sudden he goes in there and you see him step his game up to an entirely different level. I love the kid's confidence. He kind of reminds me of a Fernando Mendoza a little bit. I don't know what it is about him when I watch him, but I know Fernando, being a South Florida guy, just smart, cerebral player, has a lot of confidence, and I see a lot of the same things in Heinchel. I just see a guy who was very underrated and is comfortable in this offense and comfortable leading this team. He's not hesitant much at all. Yes, he'll make mistakes. Mendoza certainly made mistakes when he was young. But I think he's a guy to contend with the next couple of years. I think Pittsburgh's got their guy.
Manny, we wanted to talk a little bit about your job with The Athletic. You're based in Miami, but you're a national college football writer, and I think one of your specialties is NIL. Is that right?
Well, among the many things, transfer portal, NIL, player movement, do a lot of roster building studies, etc.
Tell us a little bit about the kind of things you're writing about these days, off the field. The NIL stuff, the immediate transfer stuff, the revenue sharing. How is it changing your job?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved over time. Obviously when I first got into this back in the late '90s, early 2000s, you mentioned the word money in college, and then it was, oh man, somebody's getting in trouble, right? Somebody's going to be facing NCAA sanctions soon. But we all knew people were getting paid under the table. We knew SEC teams were doing it forever, loading up their rosters by paying guys under the table. And so now, obviously, it's like covering the NFL. You're dealing with agents. You're dealing with guys who all have an angle, right? They all want to help their players get more money, create this level of demand. And so it's evolved quite a bit. This week I have a story coming out on the general manager from Florida International University, one at the other Miami school, the public state school. They made a bowl game for the first time in 6 years, and they've got a guy in their general manager named Jose Jefferson, who has spent 30 years around the game, was with the Packers and the Vikings a little bit, and his first time GM, right? Now all of a sudden in college football, you got general managers that are basically handling a bunch of jobs for the head coach. that used to all revolve around the head coach, and he's got a lot of responsibility. He's got to meet with agents, meet with players, talk to assistant coaches, figure out what they're going to do with their small little tiny budget at that G6 school, because they don't have a lot of money. Conference USA schools don't have a lot of money. And meanwhile, you got the Miamis and the Ohio States and the Texases and everybody else who have, you know, 20, 30, 40 million dollars are spending on a roster. FIU, meanwhile, has got $1 million to work with to field the team. So it's incredible how much college sports has changed. And I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see how everybody juggles the job and the task that they have at hand.
I also think, Manny, what's interesting is letter of intent day used to be like a holiday. And now with the transfer portal, it's really, I don't know if you think this, it's taken away the luster of letter of intent day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I remember, going with Willie Williams, the infamous 5-star linebacker. I don't know if that rings any bells for you guys back in 2003, but we did a recruiting diary series for the Miami Herald, and Willie was the toast of the country. Everybody was talking about him. Where's this guy going to go? Is he going to go to Miami? Is he going to go to Florida State, Florida, Tennessee? And we went through the whole gamut together for almost a month, and everybody was on pins and needles. Nowadays, every one of these guys is committed by the summer, right? They're getting their NIL checks early. Somebody's paying them under the table to stay committed to the program as a high school senior. And the mystery is, are they going to flip on signing day, right? Is somebody else going to come in and steal them away? So not nearly the same drama there used to be. I feel there's so much more attention paid to it now, especially young guys, sophomores, juniors, when they commit and where they visiting, all that kind of stuff. So, the profession has changed quite a bit from what it was, and certainly not as exciting on National Signing Day as it used to be.
Manny, in your opinion, which ACC school is best positioned in this NIL era to succeed, and where do Pitt and Miami stand in that regard?
Yeah, I certainly think Miami is at the top of that list. They have such a big NIL budget. They think they have a top 10 NIL budget. Obviously, there's the rev share deal, and news is evolving, right, with how they're going to sort of police that going forward. But I just think financially, when you look at the ACC schools and the schools that are committed every single year to investing money into the recruiting, into the free agency period of the portal, Miami's the one that's doing the most with it right now, and they're spending the most. I think Clemson has that opportunity to be the same way, but Dabo Swinney just chooses not to. He just doesn't want to go that route. He prefers the high school recruiting, and so I think Florida State, obviously, by keeping Mike Norvell, showed you their hand, right? They didn't want to pay that big buyout, so I don't think they have a whole lot of money to spend to operate the way that Miami does. I think Pittsburgh's done a good job. Pat Narduzzi, since he came in, has done a good job being efficient. They don't overpay for recruits. They get the 3-star guys and an occasional 4-star guy, and they make the most of it, right? It comes down ultimately to what you believe in and who you think fits your scheme. You don't always have to overpay for a 4 or 5-star type guy, and Pitt isn't overly aggressive in the portal either. I mean, they look to patch up holes, but it's not like they're going and being big spenders in the portal either. So to me, I think they're more of a middle of the road team. Does that mean they can't have success? No, I think the head coach is everything. If the head coach knows what they want, right, in each position group and each, on offense and defense, and they know how to address those needs, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can still be successful, and Pitt has proven that. They're right there on the cusp of making the ACC championship game, and they're the team that needs a little help. Miami needs a lot of help. Pittsburgh just needs to win and get a little help, and they can get into the ACC championship.
As long as the head coach doesn't call a fake punt in the middle of the fourth quarter with a 2-touchdown lead.
Hey, listen, Mario. Everybody calls Mario the big dummy, right? Since he had that call against Georgia Tech that cost him the game 2 years ago. But look, every one of these coaches, man, you can question a lot of the decisions that they make. I mean, I've seen guys. A lot of head scratching, like why are you going for it on 4th down here? You're winning. I mean, running a fake punt the other day, I was baffled by Narduzzi's decision there, as he probably was afterward, right? When you look back on
did you hear his response when somebody asked him why he did it? Because I'm a dumbass. You know what? He gave me that same quote 3 years ago when they played Tennessee in 2022, and he had Keaton Slovis, the quarterback, throwing a pass with 21 seconds left in the first half when Pitt was on their own 37. He gets sacked. He gets fumbled. Tennessee recovers, and Slovis gets concussed. Yeah. So I said to him at his news conference, I said, Pat, what were you doing, throwing a pass there late in the first half like that? With only seconds left. He said, because I'm a dumbass, Jerry. That's a direct quote.
And even worse, they kicked the field goal off of that, and then Pitt
And they
lost in
lost in
overtime,
overtime.
and
Yeah,
they
they
lost
lost
it.
it.
Oh
Yeah.
They
man,
lost.
yeah,
So yeah, because yeah, but
It's fun. Narduzzi's a fun guy to cover, and when he does stuff like that, it's even more fun.
yeah.
Matt,
I
Matt,
enjoy running into him in Charlotte every single year when I get a
He's
chance
a
to
good
talk
guy
to
to
him.
talk to. I enjoy talking to him a lot. Him and I got along, fairly well over the years. And he's a fun guy. He's a good family man, and fans get on him, all the time, and they're really on him after that
yeah,
fake punt. Boy, they had lost that game.
uh,
I wouldn't have blamed him. I wouldn't have blamed him at
They
all.
would have
would
marched
have
down
wanted
into the facility with
wanted him fired. Would have
pitchforks,
torched his house for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Manny, do you ever think there'll come a time where kids will have to sign a contract, maybe a 2-year contract, and to try to 2 or 3 years just to try to keep them from jumping from place to place? And
Gosh, I hope so. I really do. I think that's what's needed here, in all honesty. And I get it. There's a lot of issues here about freedom and being able to move if there's coaching changes and locking guys in, etc. I think that there needs to be some level of regulation here, right? I think to just have a sort of wild west every single year where you get into bidding wars for players every single year is nuts. I think the smart thing here would be to sign 2 and 3 year deals. Obviously with some parameters if there is a coaching change or whatever. But I think just for the stability of the sport, there needs to be a little bit more control because it's crazy. I mean, I told you guys I cover the transfer portal. The amount of guys that change schools every single year, the guys that I'm tracking. I mean, if I sent you guys my Google cheat sheet, all right, where I list all these FBS guys and FCS guys, you'd freak out. I mean, this thing's going. It feels like 10,000 deep. Right? In all honesty, it's just too many guys are getting in the portal every single year, and you're just trying to keep up with it all. And it's. I just think there needs to be a little bit more sort of understanding. And I think in some ways there is. I mean, true freshmen and redshirt freshmen are getting into the portal, but I also think a lot of them are understanding. Hey, I'm probably not going to play anyway my first or second year. And if I do leave, I should probably go to some place where I can get on the field, or I'm just wasting my time.
And that's the thing about Heinzel. Heinzel comes in, and this is the mentality of Pitt. Comes in out of nowhere, turns into a star player out of nowhere, and the first thing Pitt fans say is, "Oh, well, they're not going to keep him next year because they won't be able to pay him."
Right.
That's just the way that's Pitt.
They said the
Yeah.
same thing about Eli Holstein after last
Yeah,
season, and then Holstein came back with about
Yeah.
$1.5 million, right, Frank?
yeah, about that, and he'll be in the portal, I'm sure.
He'll be in the portal as soon as the season ends, probably.
There's just not enough money. In all honesty, there's just not enough money to go around here, I think what a lot of these guys are doing is just jumping onto whatever the best deal is. If it's $200,000 or $300,000 more, the parents are saying, "Hey, you got to take that," right? And I think what they're not thinking enough about is the opportunity and what it leads to. If I were a top high school recruit at this point, and I knew I wasn't going to play my first or second year at Ohio State or Miami or Texas or wherever, I'd go to a G6 school or a lower T Power 4 and get on the field right away and try to improve my value. But I think a lot of people are just, hey, I got to get that first check. I got to get that first couple 100,000 that they're going to pay me. And in the end, it's it just flooded with too many players. I mean, it's just too many guys on the market, and so there's just not enough opportunity to play at everywhere at all these top schools, and guys just have to do a better job doing their homework and figuring out and seeing what's happened to some of these top players who just sit on the bench for years and never get the chance to play.
These high school kids, their eyes get big when they see all those millions of dollars flying around, and they want
Yeah,
to get it because I guess they figure football is a dangerous sport. You
yeah,
could tear up your knee as a freshman in practice, and all of a sudden you're on the third team again. So
yeah.
I can understand the human nature, but you
Of
also you
course.
should be smart about it.
Well, what baffles me are the 3 and 4 star guys, the lower tier guys. I'm not talking about the 5 stars. The 5 stars are always going to go to the top schools, but it's the lower tier. The guys that are sort of, hey, there's 2 5 stars going ahead of me at the same position. You really think you're going to get the opportunity first to play, or do you think those 5 star guys are? Like that's the part that kills me, and I think that's what the parents have to study more and really figure out. Hey, where can I go to get on the field? Because in the end, your biggest payday is going to come as a junior, right? Everybody's going to want you when you're a junior or a senior, and you got all that experience, and that's where the big money comes in, and that's where the bigger opportunities come in. So, I've heard it. I went to symposium in Nashville this summer, and with a couple of my other cohorts from the Athletic, and sit there and listen to all these GMs talk about, well, 200 snaps. That's the magic number, right? You play 200 snaps for a team. That's gonna put you on the radar of a lot of other general managers, and they're gonna want to invest and take a chance on you. But you don't get to that 200 number mark. Good luck.
Good. No one even talks about education anymore.
No.
What's that? Go to class?
Yeah. Why even go to class? You need a financial advisor instead of an academic advisor now. It seems like with some of these kids.
Just as
For
important.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
So
Manny, you're a prince among men. I don't care what Walter Villa says about you. Walter worked with us at the Trib. He was the assistant sports editor for how many years was it, Frank? I forget how many years.
About 3 or 4 years or so.
Yeah, and Walter and I, what drove him back to Miami, Manny, and you probably remember this story. We had a snowstorm here in 2009, and it was about 25 inches, and he got stuck out on McKnight Road, and he was there practically overnight. And I remember talking to him over the phone, trying to encourage him. He thought he was going to die. So that November, he was on in the car back to Miami.
Yeah, I got to see Walter a couple of times up there when he was living in Pittsburgh. I was covering the Marlins back then, and going up to see the Marlins series against the Pirates a few times. And he told me as soon as that snowstorm hit, he was like, I'm going back, brother. I can't live in this cold. And so I don't blame him.
I don't even know what he was thinking. Yeah, he was a good man. He's a good man, Walter.
Good newspaper guy. We had fun with him. So
always had fun. So, well, Manny, all right. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on tonight and spending some time with us. You were great.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on. And whenever you need me again, just ring my bell.
You coming to Pittsburgh this Saturday?
I'm not. I'm with my family up in St. Augustine. I don't travel as much as I used to with the Athletics since I'm part of this other department.
Good for you.
I certainly watch the Canes a ton, but I'm getting to spend some time with my mom and dad here in St. Augustine. So
there you go.
Good opportunity to see them again. I hadn't seen them in about 11 months almost. So
sounds good. You have a happy Thanksgiving with your family, Manny, and we'll talk soon.
Yep.
Same to you guys. Enjoy.
Take care.